All right, good morning, everybody. Today's October 1st, 2024. The time is 9:30. This is your tax planning and zoning committee.
Geiger.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Here.
Ferguson. Yes. Ducat.
The agenda. I'll give a second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Good, motion to up the claim. Let's go. Question?
Make a motion.
Okay. Further discussion?
Geiger.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Ferguson. Yes. Ducat.
Yes. Motion passes. Public comments on anybody? Anyone? Okay, we'll move on to reports and departments. We will start with our county clerk.
As far as having something to report, we're in full-fledged election mode, so early voting started. Paul, I see your sticker, so I know you were going to vote, right?
Yeah.
So I was expecting like a lot of voters the first day, like the last presidential election. However, we only had like 21, where before we had, in the last presidential, we had like 55. So I was a little bummed by that, but people are rolling in and vote by mail ballots are rolling in and things like that. So, I'm a little out of breath because I've been moving election equipment today. Other stuff going on, candidates are calling, coming in and picking up packets for consolidated. So if you know anyone that is interested in running for consolidated election, they can come to my office, pick up packets, or go to their local election official, meaning their township clerk, village clerk, or clerk of their board. Other than that, that's all I really have to report. I just passed out the monthly resolution list from the trustee. There's actually two lists because the September list did not make it to my office in time to present to the board last month. So we have several parcels that were sold at the annual tax sale. And these are people that bid in a silent bid through the trustee. And then these are the people that won the bids. I don't believe it is all of them that they have agreements for. So next month we'll have another round of them. So we just need a motion to approve those.
You do what? The list. I'll make that motion, whatever.
All right. Steve made the motion.
Second.
Jed seconds it. Any further discussion? I'm just gonna ask one quick question.
Yeah.
Maybe you might not even know it. Why are there so many?
Because the annual delinquent tax
That's fine.
sale that they do, so that
I
every
just wanted to
parcel the
clarify.
trustee
Okay.
gets, they put on sale.
Yeah, these are the parcels that the county owns after he took possession of them after the 30 years these people didn't. So I mean, there was probably 50 some on the list, and I think that we sold at least half of them.
Okay.
So, but they will, even though they didn't sell them at the sale, if somebody comes in afterwards, they will take a bid from them to sell them if somebody wants them that bad.
Right, once they're offered for public bid, then they can sell them at whatever price the person calls and says they want to.
Who's they?
The trustee.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
But it's gotta be the minimum bid of 817 or 816 or something like that.
That's fine.
It was 807.
We get mine.
That's a no-no. Yeah, we're the original.
Geiger.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yeah.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Ferguson. Yes. Ducat.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you for putting up. Moving on to our treasurer.
We finished the second tax installment date. We're working on subs will be coming in today to start paying their taxes, and then we'll be working on our second tax distribution, which should go out to us next week. Other than that, everything's been fairly smooth so far, so hopefully we'll keep doing that. Questions?
Thank you so much. All right, man.
I just have, I received actually this morning from Department of Revenue, just some updates for the 2024 legislative session, and two things that drew my attention as they are doing a county official compensation task force. So how they were each elected officials, their committees were doing them individually. Now, do you know much about it? Is it the treasurer's office, the county clerk recorder, and the assessment? Or is the circuit clerk included in that? I'm not
I don't think
sure.
circuit clerk is.
So it's just the three. So basically, they have elected or not elected. They have people that are representing those specific organizations to do a task force to look at some type of compensation and how everybody should be paid to make it fair and equal. The other thing that was on there is a property tax system study. So the governor and general assembly by July 1st of 2026, hopefully IDOR will kind of revamp the property tax system. What that means, I don't know, but I hope there's changes made because it's, with what the sales are, it is hard. It's hard for me to go in public and not have people come up to me and have things to say because of everybody's assessments going up and multipliers and things I have absolutely no control over. So hopefully they can find a working solution to all of this. Couple other things is I am looking for some information I found on Marion County's website, and it's something that is interesting to me and I would like to implement it. So maybe some discussion on, they have a link that says help prevent homestead exemption fraud, where people can kind of go in and report things they're looking for. On here is the property being rented and the owner's getting an owner occupied exemption? Is it a vacant house and there's exemptions on it? Is it a vacation home? Are there exemptions from a previous owner? So just looking at how to maybe make a link like this for ourselves. I get these emails from different people, but I think there'd be a lot more feedback if there was a place to put that information out there, because it's really hard to track all of that stuff, especially with my next point, the lack of township assessors that we have. I'm not sure how to push it and how to get the information out there, but we need township assessors. It's a huge proponent of the tax cycle and what we do at the county office. It should not be our responsibility to be the township assessor. If we are, there should absolutely be an intergovernmental agreement in place for us to do that. Lovejoy, Milford, Prairie Green, Stockland, we did have an IGA with them. Their person that they had interested in the position has finished her classes and she was appointed in September. So that IGA now is done and they have a township assessor. I'm really excited. I think Bridget's gonna do a really good job there. We are with, Middleport has had 2 different township assessors in 2024. And for one reason or another, neither of them are now doing it. So now Belmont and Middleport, our 2 most populous townships, are without township assessors and have been for several years. That is a burden on everybody. It's a burden on every taxpayer because there's not equity and uniformity in those townships if there's not somebody out there doing it. And you know, it's not a full-time job, but it's a commitment to do, and to put that on our office, you know, even if they were to pay us, it's almost impossible for us to do without there being somebody dedicated to do it. But that's another discussion. We'll see, maybe somebody will run. What are the dates that somebody in Belmont, if somebody ran? Would they have to have their paperwork to you to know?
Like with everyone else, November 12th through 18th.
Okay, so we'll know then if maybe somebody in Belmont might run. If you know of anybody, I'm happy to kind of lead them in the right direction of who they need to contact and what they need to look for. So yeah, this is just me kind of saying we need township assessors. Beaverville and Papineau will combine with Beaver, Concord, and Martinton to form a new multi-township for 2026. So we currently have an IGA with Beaverville and Pappanaw. The Beaver Concord Martinton Township Assessor is more than likely going to retire, so I have reached out to him and said, hey, we're happy to take that all on. The smaller townships are a little more doable for us to take on. The larger ones really need their own township assessor. Another point for discussion I just want to kind of put in everybody's head is something I have discussed with Julie, and that's in making it a requirement for building plans to be submitted for new construction. Kind of goes along with this whole township assessor thing. It helps if we have the building plans so that we know what's being constructed on site. And if it's a requirement for permitting, it just helps make that process a little more smooth. You know, then we can see square footage, bathrooms, does it have a basement, you know, all the important details. Then the last thing I have is we will move ahead with the Bruce Harris GIS services for REACH. I'm just waiting to see, you know, if there's any ARPA funds available to us to cover a portion of that cost. So it doesn't all have to come out of the GIS funds if possible. So that we can continue to build that for future aerials and projects, you know, down the line.
I have.
Speaking of GIS funds, and the budget, we had like $150,000 of GIS fund expenditure. Was that to do the flyover and
Right,
all
so
that?
part of the flyover, the GIS funds came out of that. Which, I mean, that's essentially what the fund was built for, was to have a GIS site and flyover.
No problem, I
So,
just, yep.
And the total price for that is it 374 or 347? I think it's 374.
for the one we did,
That you'll need down the road. We talked about this.
so I guess, are you asking me what, I mean, I don't know what a cost of a future flight will be in the future. I'm sure those prices will
Jill
change.
had something that we were adding up over the years.
Oh, we were discussing the amounts monthly that I get from Brienne's office for
Right.
recording fees, so.
It's,
We had a package deal though, to do this initial flyover and
And
then.
we get another one, yes.
That's what he's saying is what's left, do we know what's left to
well,
be?
no, what I'm saying is for her getting collections for, what was it, 5 years down the road or 10 years to do it again? We
Well, and
talked
that's
about
what
this.
that is for, is, I mean, I was just trying to make the point that there's money in the GIS fund.
Right.
Can this proposal come out of there? Absolutely. But when we were discussing the flyovers and doing it, how am I gonna pay for it in the future? Well, it's to make sure there's money there in that GIS fund, and if I'm constantly dipping, you know, grabbing to do other projects, then that money's not there. So flights are, maybe $150,000 for a flyover, so I mean, they're costly, so.
I'm thinking now what we talked about yesterday, that was 374, 347,000. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if that was for like 10 years down the road or something that Jill was talking about.
I mean, I
Which
can
is-
run numbers and show you what we paid, what
Right.
we're getting for what we
You're fine,
got,
I knew we talked
but
about
I don't
something.
have
had
that information
number in
at the
my
top of my head, yeah. And I mean, it all depends on the recording fees, you know, right now, I'd say about $6,000 a month is what I get, but it's all based on the recorded documents monthly, that's where that money comes from.
Year to date, you've gotten $114,000, it says here, for GIS special fund fees.
Right, and then one employee, one deputy clerk's paid out of there, our monthly GIS costs are paid out of there, so.
But we're getting quite a bit of revenue.
Right, we are, but there was also, for 10 years, we didn't have a new flight, there was no new aerial imagery. I don't know if that was because of lack of funds or what was the cause of that. So I can do a little bit of a study to see, here's what we need so that in 2028, we can do a new flight. And what if I, you know, expect it to cost, you know, obviously I don't know what their costs will be, but, and so we can have a bigger picture of it. I'll do that for next month.
And just to throw in, finance is gonna be discussing an ordinance to increase the GIS fee collected, so it's gonna go up $5 if you guys approve the, increase.
What triggers that $5 expense, what takes place that,
It started with me requesting it,
Well,
but
No,
a
no,
cost study
what
was
activity
done.
happens in the county level? Is that just a
For that
report?
increase to
Yeah.
happen,
Yeah, no, as far as what causes somebody to pay the $5?
oh, recording a document.
Any, okay,
Yeah,
any
it's-
document recorded.
Well, it's not any, I mean, there are some that are exempt from paying the full GIS fee, which those are like state and federal liens and documents.
About how many of these recordings happen a year?
It's almost every document that's recorded in my office.
About how many is
So,
that a year?
It depends on the year, I guess. So with
2,000?
solar farms and wind farms coming, there's probably gonna be a lot more documents recorded as far as leases and things like that. So, we've been averaging, I wanna say about 3,500.
$65,000.
But we could be upwards of 8,000, depending on the year. So with this.
And I'll try to include what that looks like in what I develop. Like, here's where we're at if we get that $5, just to see. And there's very specific things what that money can be used for. It can't be used for just anything, so, in my office.
Board of Planning and Zoning. We'll start with the first one with discussion and action. You know what, you do your report first, Joe, sorry.
It's quite, I have quite lengthy stuff to talk about today. So, just so you're aware before it starts. So the first page there that I handed out, that is just our financials of where we are this month. And with all of the fees going out, we wound up with $29,017.05 to the plus for the month. The second page that I gave you there, that is a total of where we are for the year on fees collected at over 110,000. But we've had several solicitor licenses this year. We're currently at 35. Some of those have expired but have not renewed. So I will get you a list on that as for which ones have expired here within the next week. We will be getting a zoning layer added to GIS through ARPA funds. Bruce Harris will be doing that for us. It will not take up any time out of the assessment zoning office for personnel for gathering, collecting the information. They will be in there doing all of that themselves off of the old paper maps. I'm not sure exactly the equipment that they will be using, but they will be doing that themselves. That is part of the quote that they gave us. It includes that. And he said that 2 months, barring anything crazy, should be the amount of time that it takes to get this completed. I do need to reach out to Kankakee to see exactly how they update their zoning layer, because I have a feeling, Mia was showing me how it looked yesterday, that it may fall on us a little bit for at least relaying information to them as for what needs to be changed, when it needs to be changed based on rezoning hearings that may happen.
So what is the product? Is it a GIS layer? Is
Yes,
that-
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And then we'll just need, once it's done with the existing information, then as we change, then we
Yep.
need to provide that.
Yep.
And is that an extra cost then, or is that something we can manage, or?
That's why I need to reach out to Delbert to see how they manage it, because
Okay.
I have a feeling he does it himself because he's also the GIS coordinator. So that's an additional question, conversation that I'll have to have with Bruce Harris.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Speaking of rezoning, in the past, we've always had the $400 fee for the hearing. Well, in regard to rezoning, we have that hearing because of a split that has happened from a larger parcel that may not be zoned to build a home. Okay, and so on our application, it also shows $100 per parcel split, but yet we're not collecting that $100 parcel split because it's already happened prior to it getting to myself. So I'd like to have some input from the committee as for, one, if it should just be removed from the application, or if two, we should add that to the fee itself and redo the application to show a $500 fee.
Could you give us a specific example that we could just kind of follow through? with
Yep, I will make a note.
how it,
We had a rezoning hearing just a few months ago for a gentleman, the last name Badella. He and his wife purchased less than 5 acres from the father-in-law. And it was zoned agricultural, and so it needed to be rezoned to RH1, so for them to be able to build a home on it. And so, like I said, the split off of the larger parcel, that was already complete before it got to me. My involvement was merely the rezoning from the agricultural to residential. And so that's where the confusion may lie looking at this application, because they haven't paid the $100 for the parcel split, or if they did, it didn't get paid for with us.
it seems like the place, if anybody was gonna know what happened, it'd be the recorder's office, right? Because the new deed would have to be.
Well, right, and it comes through the assessment office as well, but
Right.
what I'm saying is that that split happens prior to me. So
But could that trigger your fee in any way? Could that deed being recorded raise the flag that, oh, you need to have this fee, you need to do this application, a split application?
well, the only way that they would come to me and do this application is if then, after they did the split, if they wanted to build a home. And I don't know that until they come and fill this. So it's almost like this is confusing to the applicant. And so that's why I'm asking for the committee's opinion, if we should just remove that $100 off of the application, or also remove it and increase the 400 to 500.
So I think, I never knew that was on there. Julie and I were just talking about it yesterday. The reason why I'm gonna make an assumption why it's on there is every time something's split, we have to pay Bruce Harris because we don't have an in-house GIS. And it costs approximately $100 every single time. So that may be on there to help offset some of that cost. Because we get a charge just from our splits and combines, approximately $30,000 a year. We pay Bruce Harris for these type of things. So I don't know if that was put on there to help offset that.
Let's go ahead and add it to our fee, and that takes out the gray area, but also we get collected for it, and that'll help reimburse us for the cost of the Harris deal.
And let me ask this question also. Should the applicant actually be writing 2 checks, one to zoning and one to assessment, so that they get, for sure to get the reimbursement, or how
Or
to
just
get?
in-house, we know
Yeah.
how to split it.
I think you would know how to split it.
Okay.
You know, it's all documented, you're good.
Okay,
Yeah, make it simple.
okay.
So do we need to make a motion then, or what?
Yeah.
Can we do that today?
I mean, it's technically already on there, so whether
Yeah,
there's,
technically, yes,
it's just never been enforced.
right, it's never been enforced.
Right.
Either way, it's gonna go to assessment for $100.
It's more of a assessment on the land side of things, not the. So. It's a separate matter from what the zoning question is about changing the zoning ordinance, or changing the zoning
If the fee
restriction.
is- If the fee is paid at the time the new split is recorded in the recorder's office, the fee should be paid then.
That's what I'm thinking, because if I have an 80 and I'm gonna sell 5 acres to somebody, the first thing I'm gonna do is get an attorney to do a deed for that 5 acres, that's gonna get recorded. And that's when the split occurs, is when that deed's recorded, the split has occurred.
Yeah, but then if you take that 5 acres that you just parceled off, which is fine, and you paid, who's paying for the process if they want to make a special use
The
application?
new owner,
When's that money collected?
when they put in the application.
Okay, but that's what we're talking about, is on this application, right?
Right,
Right.
But the parcel split part is not a part of it.
it's already been split.
Right, but if they're gonna run through the process of getting a special use permit for that new parcel, and then we'll have to hire Bruce Harris to change,
But what if,
who's paying that fee, or where's that fee?
You
But
might-
what if they
you might
never come in
that
and do
40
it?
years
Yeah,
after the
exactly.
property is split.
Agreed, so that's where this planning and zoning request for a fee is to cover that.
Don't understand that. I think Catherine.
Well, I'm just saying is, if you sell the parcel and it isn't zoned correctly, then you gotta come back and ask for the zone correction, correct?
Usually they don't ask for a zoning change unless they're going to build a house. The Bruce Harris does the split at whenever everything
Well,
moves through the
I
assessment office.
apologize, but today's meeting, we're talking about changing the use of a parcel, and it's already been deeded to somebody, so who's paying the fees for the zoning board of appeals?
At the time the deed is recorded is when the fee for the parcel split should be paid.
Probably the original owner should pay that, because they're splitting off a piece.
So it doesn't matter to us who pays the fee, as long as the fee is paid.
So they weren't gonna charge for the new owner to come in and ask for a special use permit then?
What if they pay the
That's what the $400 is
Okay,
for.
why do we make that $500? I
Well,
guess
you can do that,
that's
that's
what
fine.
my whole point was, is do the
That's fine,
$500
but there still should be $100 fee paid when the deed is recorded
over
to
on the,
cover the GIS cost.
Well, and I think there's where we have to be
There's
careful
two.
because there's already, every document recorded is already being charged a GIS fee, regardless whether it's a split or not. So I think, again, I don't know where this came from. If this came from an old application, it has not been being done for quite some time, Julie found out. So I think we'd have to talk to Jim Devine and find out. I don't know that we could charge it at the recording because there's already recording fees for GIS.
Yeah, how
And
much
then the
is that?
recording fee you're already charging.
I
is the fee
think
to
it's
cover it.
$21 and we're asking it, so there was a cost study prior to me starting that said it could go up $5. So of the $21, 20 goes into that GIS fund and 1 stays in Brienne's office. So we're asking it to go up to 26, 25 of it will stay with us. But again, that's regardless of a split or not. So I think this was a way to help recapture some of the costs for the splits to Bruce Harris, because there's a lot, like I said, it's about $30,000 a year
So
on
then I
average.
think the question to Jim might be, can we add a parcel split fee when the recording is a result of a
Yeah, and I don't think that we can, but I'd be more than happy. I meet with him this week over something else, so I'll run that by him.
Okay.
So I think that might have been why it was developed this way, was to capture it under permitted zoning.
Well, if what you're saying is true, Mia, then I think Doug's suggestion to make it $500.
And just, yeah.
Yeah, just.
And again, I'm just making assumptions right now, I think it complicated by doing it in the recorder's office, because there's already fees being
Plus we know it's
collected
not-
for
and it
GIS,
changes.
so. Just upping the permitting to $500 might be the
It
cleanest way.
depends on what the fee in the recorder's office is being collected right now is for. Is that to cover all your GIS costs per month?
It's not covering my splits, no, that's coming out of a different line
And
item,
that's the
so.
reason to ask for an increase.
Sure.
Fees that we charge and not for those kinds of matters are intended to cover our costs, not to make money, but
Right.
to cover the cost.
Julie, this document here says application for amendment to the Iroquois County zoning ordinance.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is just a page one, I didn't bring the whole thing. The second page, goes into explanation why you're asking for rezoning.
But somewhere a name and address shows up, correct?
Yes, on the second and third page, I apologize. I just wanted to call out the issue.
Well, and this is used if somebody wants to change the zoning of a parcel.
Yes,
Then I would make the motion that we change the fee for the application for amendment to the zoning. I don't know, it's not
yeah,
make
I know
sense.
the wording isn't great.
Actually, we're changing the zoning designation of a parcel
Yes,
to $500.
yes.
Which will include a split if there was one.
I don't know, I'm not even saying that. It's money for the assessment office, zoning office to
Figure out.
Right.
buy pencils with.
Scratch that.
Yeah.
And I'll second.
On discussion, can we sometimes see your that whole
Absolutely.
application? Thank you. And it's not the end of the world.
Matter of fact, just have a read from the book.
Pass it out. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
Great.
all right, perfect.
Tyler,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Ferguson. No. Ducat.
Hey, everybody here made a motion. It wasn't a motion, but we made a resolution for ARPA to accept this for $9,822. So my thought is, I was speaking to Amanda, we have a motion for this to be accepted at the county board meeting for the overlay. This is the grid overlay for Bruce Harris.
Bruce Harris, so Bruce Harris paperwork
Back up
here to be
page.
paid by ARPA.
Yes. Don't think so? Okay. It's money, but, okay.
Yeah, so here goes Bruce Harris.
That's the zoning layer, that's so that on GIS, you'll be able to click on a parcel and see what it's zoned without it having
And also,
come through the.
That's where we pay $100 for Bruce Harris to get that done.
No, that's
Right.
different. It could still, it could benefit, you know, you could almost rename it to, for that purpose, so that when we have a special use. I only showed Julie Kankakee, but Kankakee does it where if this parcel, if there was a special use added to it, they put all of that on GIS, so it's all out there,
Right.
trackable. I think it's a great way.
Because the special use, conditional use, whichever verbiage you use, stays with the parcel and not with the owner.
Right. Back to you, Julie.
Okay. The next thing, I have the Illinois Department of Natural Resources letter that I provided you guys. This is, a statewide permit number 6 for Mr. Weiss. My issue that I have with this, and I don't understand how this happens, but this is in the floodplain to do a berm. So, and on the letter, it looks like that they, are expecting it to be finished within the next 2 weeks. So why we weren't contacted to get, a floodplain development permit of some sort in addition to this. And so, there again, that's something that, we will have to develop is a floodplain development permit. And I have included a rough draft and, we have it on the agenda for next month to, approve or disapprove. Because we don't, until now, I've looked through everything and have not found a floodplain development permit on file. So I'm not sure how it was ever handled in the past.
Was this Mr. Weiss just moving dirt on his own around parcel, correct?
Right, but it's in the floodplain, he's,
No,
yeah.
I mean, he just, so what's gonna trigger anybody to know they need to ask for a permit? I'm just asking,
But-
if I'm moving dirt on my own property,
But because it's in the floodplain, that's, I mean,
What's
he knew
the-
he needed to reach out to Department of Natural Resources.
what's gonna trigger the event though?
A fine if they don't.
But how are they gonna know? We're struggling right now knowing about building permits
Yeah.
and things like that, so how are we gonna
And
broadcast?
this kind of goes hand in hand with the other issues that we have going on, why we didn't have this floodplain development permit.
Okay.
But I guess just,
We can look
I
at
just
it.
wanted to let you know if, you know, anyone were to reach out to you and ask if you were aware of, a berm that's parallel to the channel that in Langdon Creek, that you would know that, yes, Mr. Weiss did get a statewide permit number 6 from Department of Natural Resources.
I'm sorry?
Why did
He wants to stop the creek from running into his property.
he give you any reasoning why he's doing this?
That, I knew nothing until I got this letter.
How'd you get the letter? Who gave it to you?
Department of Natural Resources sent it to me.
I'm looking at his property.
So they've
I'm trying to figure it out.
And in their last
Something like-
paragraph, they say you still may need to get real
Possibly
estate
his
or local
property.
permit.
Right.
It would dam his property.
But I have had nothing from this gentleman,
Just a farm,
is my point.
what that puts me at.
So the,
So we can do
So
a.
make it-
that triangular shape is his property?
That's that little,
Yes.
that dirt, the
If
brown
we have
spot.
something in place.
That whole corner.
So you're saying you don't have that?
That's what I
Right,
believe that's
which
what's
is
showing up.
why I
That's what this.
dragged
Kind of a
it.
starting point.
That's the-
Yeah.
Okay.
His property from getting flooded.
Yes.
But I know but have you looked in the
What is that gonna-
floodplain maps to see, is that whole property in the floodplain?
I said, I just got this late yesterday afternoon and sent it to you guys and I did warn you how to look share this morning.
Is what it is.
I mean, I think that goes along with us needing some type of application if somebody's building something in the floodplain and rules and regulations. Again, how are we gonna enforce it? I don't know. We
Not
have
just
to-
on a floodplain permit, I don't know. If you're gonna build something, then yeah, there'd be a building permit. I don't know if he's building something or.
Well, just berms as of right now, but
So where did this example come from? Who, what
I
model? are
I
you
looked
using?
at Illinois, a sample for Illinois floodplain development, whether it be building something or moving dirt. It's all included.
and this kind of generated from a talk with Delbert and Kankakee in discussing our other issue how do you handle things? And his first thing was, well, if we have a flood, if something's being built in the floodplain, there's a different application for that. So that's kind of where that got highlighted, that's where that talk started from. And that we realized we didn't have that and probably should.
So if we were to do something like this, we need to see how it fits into our existing.
This would be a prerequisite. This would start before the building permit application. But like I said, that's just a draft, a sample. Like I've already spoken with Amanda about getting it on the agenda for approval for next month. I just wanted to give you a heads up of what's coming.
There it is.
Is it in the floodplain then? I don't know where his corner is compared to
Okay.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Try to zoom it in, it's right with me.
Department of Natural Resources wouldn't be involved in it if it wasn't in a floodplain or floodway, so.
Back and forth, we'll be able to figure it out. I just figured it out. Just pull left and right. Let's see the next page.
Is that bend up there though? So we're a little off or not? Can't tell. But it is what it is.
Which is interesting.
I guess that's the first thing I look at if anybody talks to me about any development is what's the floodplain say, because it's such an easy access tool.
Julie, one other question.
He's on the
So
corner of zone AE.
in the CC on this letter, it says that the application plans were included. Did you actually get a copy of that, or did it include the closures that the letter said it would?
I think there was something else. It's on my desk, I'm sorry, but it's not really plans. It was just an application. There wasn't plans. It was there was more information missing than there was on it.
Wow.
The
So
idea
they don't want
was
somebody
they
else
would
to
just
shop.
send
They're
along
saying
a
it's
copy.
okay.
of
Right,
it. They just-
yeah, there was no
Till the next one.
drawing, of anything, like, it was just basically a name and, the address.
Right.
Because there were a lot of blanks on that.
Unless he had. That's what the court's for.
All right.
The next thing I have is that, Wayne Wagner on, ZBA, he has moved, so he is no longer Loda Township. He is Artesia Township, which works, in our benefit because I have two new ZBA members. One, Steve Anderson, who is Loda Township, and Jerry Bennett, who is Middleport Township. And with these two gentlemen, we were actually able to have 3 full members at our last ZBA hearing. I have a couple people that aren't even responding to me anymore, as far as they're listed on ZBA, but yet they're non-existent. So luckily, I was able to get these two gentlemen to step in. The next thing I have is I gave all of you a copy of the letter. It's the very last page that we have received from Ameren. And obviously this will require some response from Jim Devine, and I received it Friday, and I believe they have given me a 10-day notice. So we really need to get together and with Jim and figure out the response on this.
You've given it to Jim, when does he think he'll get back to you?
I haven't heard from him in regard to that. I shared it with all of you Friday, and then I reshared it again yesterday morning. I just wanted to make sure that everyone had it because it is priority.
Next.
And in conjunction with that, how or can we get, like Clark Dietz or someone to be on standby to, go over large-scale engineering projects, and
I think if they came to the committee, then the committee could help steer or, you know, decide what's germane and who's talented enough to do it, this and that. Clark Dietz, I think, has a wide range of abilities and that,
okay,
but I don't know how big our checkbook is, so we
Right.
wanna be
right.
careful
So,
and slow on.
I guess my next question is, any large, what I would call commercial development or industrial, actually, development, if they should actually visit with Tax and Zoning Committee prior to getting a building application.
To me, common sense is, if I got an application, I would look to see where the property is with the floodplain.
Yes,
Because that impacts and affects so many things.
absolutely.
And it's so easy to do. If it is around, you know, within, I guess within 500 feet, according to our ordinance or the code book, then, I mean, it has to be examined and go from there. So anytime you have a sniff of somebody wanting to do something, then we can start the work to see what all they're gonna have to get involved with and what outside expertise.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, and that's, I guess my question is, should they be coming in here before,
We don't need to see them, the information needs to be,
okay,
I think that starting that application, if it's in a flood zone, that starts the ball rolling and that brings everybody's eyes to it because they're not gonna, if it's in a flood zone, floodway, we're gonna have an application that's gonna specify a lot of things and at least we'll all be aware. Unlike this time, we didn't know this was
I'm gonna
taking place.
contend though that they don't know what they need to do. So the floodplain side of things. So if we just have a basic application or an interest, well, but even what we talked about in some of our meetings about having a preliminary page of plan development that gives us the address, who the contact is, the basic information, then we can easily see, is a floodplain coming into play or not? Because again, it still says 500 feet from the floodplain, and I don't think many maps online can tell you within 500 feet of the floodplain. So if it's close to the floodplain, then our radar goes up and says, whoops, we need to start looking for other resources to help us get through this process. So maybe this flood permit needs to be filled out and maybe it's a duplication of what the normal permit should be for us. But I would ask, what are other counties doing? Because we don't need to invent the wheel, we need to steal somebody else's.
Right, and I only know what Kankakee's doing
Right.
because I called Delbert as soon as this got, put on my lap. He
Well, we
was
need to
my
look for
person.
counties that have flooding problems like what we experienced. So you get up by the Illinois River and follow some of that, or the Rock River and some of those that traditionally go out of their banks. Then they might have some useful ideas to help us.
Sure.
But
and I've been online and looking at various things and, various counties, and like I said, the draft that I have kind of follows all of that along. It's actually, probably requires more information than some of the others.
I think think the big issue is that we get these people into our office, ask them what's going on, and then we help them go down the hall to get the answers. Or we help them grow legally.
I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell.
Outside of my ZBA hearing, that's everything I have.
Discussion and action. Commercial kitchen conditional use application. Review. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
You know,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Yu. I live in Sheldon, 103 Spring Court in Sheldon. And I'm requesting for conditional use permit for a kitchen or commercial kitchen state plant type 1 facility. The purpose is to build this kitchen so that we can start a business for processing pork and beef for distribution to grocery stores. The location would be in my basement, in my home, and it's about 1,560 square feet. There will be no retail operation on the area. It will just be for processing already cut meat. It's not from carcass, it's already cut meat. And so we marinate it, we vacuum pack it and freeze it, and then sell it to grocery stores. So on page 2 here, I have the blueprint, but I have a bigger copy of it on the back side. And for waste management, we will be just using, we're using Kaufman Disposal currently, so I think we would just be using that. We'll be complying with the health department regulation in safe, like the bins, will be covered bins. There will be no hazardous waste. Noise control equipment produces minimal noise, and we're not going to cook anything in the basement. We'll just be freezing and then packing. Odor control, we have air filtration and ventilation systems as well. Health and safety compliance will be adhering to the USDA, FDA, and the local health regulations on that. Again, no retail, no walk-in customers. So there should be no traffic impact, as we will not be, having retail. Nobody can go there. And then we will be committed to full compliance with the zoning laws. And again, our facility will still be compatible with neighborhood character. They wouldn't know that it's there, so it will change. So my request is just to hopefully that you approve it for me to use it, my basement as a commercial kitchen for our business.
Questions?
When I saw this, I looked at I talked down here to the public health. And they said that because you say you're doing commercial, then their hands are washed, but okay. But then if I look further in the Department of Agriculture for Illinois, have you looked into that and licensing?
We have started an application with the USDA already.
No.
Oh, no.
This is Illinois Department of Agriculture, because you're messing with meat. And meat, according to what I see online, can't be processed, handled, or changed in a residence.
Yes, and that's why we are applying for the commercial kitchen, which is a plant type 1
So
facility.
it says right there on their website that it can't be done in a residence.
I asked USDA about this and they said that it would be okay.
Illinois Department of Agriculture, not USDA, the different health, uh, health department, and unfortunately, that, I'm just concerned that we're given authorization to do something that it can't really be done by that entity. And I also asked them, why don't you just go to a building set up, zoned correctly in Sheldon or Watsika or somewhere and just put all this time and effort and monies into that? This is a meat and poultry inspection, and that's what they're talking about.
Yes.
Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, that's the USDA department.
No, this is Illinois. This is not US, just Illinois, just the state.
I think that's where I actually went to ask for the,
Can I sell inspected meat products that I produced in my home? No, meat and poultry products sold to the public, whether wholesale or retail, shall not be produced at a residence.
yes, and that's why I was trying to see if I can build a commercial kitchen down in my residence, and I'm asking for a conditional use permit of my place. So that it will be, we will try to follow the regulations for, as a commercial kitchen. So it will be like a separate from our residence
And your residence is in Sheldon,
in Sheldon.
so you would
It's
actually
not
have
in
to go.
Sheldon, no,
It's
it's
right
in
there by
the
Schwalm.
rural, it's out by Schwalm Golf Course, just north of Schwalm, on the road that goes by Schwalm. That's one thing that could help us, Julie, going forward, is if you get the addresses out. I know it somewhere, my friend kind of says 103 Spring, yeah, but.
Okay,
that-
a map,
that-
okay,
yeah, but anyway.
absolutely.
And there's nice homes out there, that, and again, it's a case of introducing the business in a residential area.
How about Lewis's out
I'm
there?
sorry.
How about Lewis's place out there?
Yeah, just north of Dewis is probably half a mile,
Gotcha.
a little less maybe. You know where Ellen Sproul lives? Well, you know where Jamie,
Sure.
back, it's in that cul-de-sac, but Jamie, it's the other house. But,
So this is not new city limits.
no,
No.
Still think you need to get USDA before.
it looks like to me, the Illinois Department of Ag is messing with meat, they're processing meat.
Very fussy about that.
Yeah. So, I guess if she can get those permits
Yeah.
and bring it to us that satisfies it, I'm still struggling with having that in a home. Because if we allow this to take place and you wanna do the meat at home and the next door neighbor wants to build dynamite in his basement, how do we draw the line? Once we let commercial businesses go in a residential area. We have struggled with that, and we haven't been that much in favor of it because, where do you draw the line?
I do think your next process would be to get the permits, get both of them, and then come back to us at this time.
Okay.
That would be,
From the US, because I thought that the Illinois Department of Agriculture is part of the USDA, so that's, that's why.
so it'd be 2 permits you'd have to get and then come back to us and we'll see where we're at that time and see how
All right.
the board feels.
Can't do anything about that.
Okay.
But no, thank you so much for coming in today, let us know about this.
Okay.
We'd love to see businesses blowing up in the community and and have them everywhere, but we'd really like to see them, obviously.
The reason also that we are trying it in our home is that I just wanna set, I just wanna try to, cause it's a small place, and I just want to just try out, the business model, and then if I get it,
Begin small.
yeah, cause I don't have,
Is there a place you can rent then that has the kitchen stuff like with the copper
The copper pot.
pot? Could you rent that for?
we looked at it and it would still cost us, the same amount of, money or even more actually.
Mhm.
So we just wanted to stay within our, our budget and means and just to kind of
Right.
try it out. And once we get the process going, once we know what to do, then we can, for sure, we're not gonna do, more than what we can handle in our basement. We were just gonna start it out. And then later on, once we get the process going, then we'll for sure invest in a lot bigger, areas.
Can we do a special use or conditional use permit for a specific time period?
Be a variance.
I think anything that we do, it seems to me that there always are a number of conditions besides time periods that enter into it as well. There has to be some way to put all that in that, for it to be enforced.
So we could say that she gets us the permits, licenses and everything and satisfy those, and we could say because she wants to grow and get bigger, then this conditional use permit is good for 12 months.
Yeah, you're just making a variance on it.
Right.
Which is acceptable.
Well, I think it's kind of like the microbrewery expansion that was done last month at county board. It was set for a certain amount of time. And so we could do I don't know why we wouldn't be able to do the same.
That'd be something else that you should be aware of then, that if we go forward with this, once you get your licenses and that, it'd probably be just for a certain time period.
Okay,
So,
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you.
Jacqueline, you have my email address and phone number by all means. The minute you get your license, please send it to me via email, okay?
All right,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
Moving on. We'll be waiting. Discussion and action on the wind ordinance. Couple since but you and Kathleen have been busy. Go ahead and move into discussion and action on the solar ordinance. Nothing with Glenn, we're gonna work on the solar ordinance that we have in front of us today.
And when's available, so. Where we're comfortable with.
Just jump into solar, and if you want to go ahead and take the lead.
We worked on this solar ordinance for quite a while. And it's separate, it stands alone by itself, it does not do anything with wind, it does not do anything with battery. Those are separate ordinances. I don't know where you want to say we started and.
Just going through it and showing the changes.
Well, the definitions have increased since our ordinance that's on the books from last fall We took a look at other counties around Illinois, Indiana, New York, to see what they might have brought to the table on it. We're still waiting on information back from our Jeff over at the fire departments, the county association of fire departments. We're waiting on information back from our public highway engineer, then Alan, and then also Jim Devine. We've changes to a conditional use application process and not a citing process. The fee is changed over what we had last fall. We're asking for $20,000 for each of the 4 first megawatts and $5,000 for additional to cover our costs for the engineering. In talking to engineers, it appears that of a facility owner's budget, 30% of their outside or their engineering costs would come during the initial use application process, and then 70% would be spent on the actual engineering of the building permit process. So that way they can walk away from the process if something changed in the world that we talked the floodplain on the solar, that it can't be within a half a mile of the nearest 100-year floodplain. That also has to do with the battery connection, even though it is part of this, but we want to make sure that people are inclined to put battery units close to solar farms because the road boats running DC voltage. I believe. We've added in the zoning district section about if it's within a mile and a half of corporate limits of any village, then we need approval or sign off by that village. Also, then if it's an A1 area that the village or city needs to sign off on it.
Sure. So Doug and I have been spending a lot of time on this, and a lot of the time has been a kind of result of all the time we spent on the wind ordinance, where we went through and really tried to tighten up language to make it work, in an orderly way and to kind of lay it out. And so a lot of these changes, I'm going to say 80% of the changes, maybe 90% of the changes that you see in here are exactly what we did. So the language kind of mirrors what's in the wind ordinance. So there's a lot of that. The specific things, though, that were, most specific to solar, things that weren't really included are things like, a little bit more explanation of the floodplain, because these are close to the ground and have impact. There's landscaping requirements where there aren't really that in this many in the wind. What else? I know.
There's a habitat and avoidance.
Right, yes, the habitat, absolutely. But I think most of the changes that you see in here are just to make this document mirror all of the work that we had been doing on the
Appreciate it.
wind. I mean, when you think,
Yeah, I think so. And we're looking at holes in our, like, for instance, we talked about page 13 about the application acceptance. The application shall be deemed complete when it contains all the documents identified in this ordinance. The date of the acceptance of the application will be established when it is formally accepted by the Tax Planning Zoning Committee at its regular scheduled meeting. We don't want Julie or anybody overwhelmed by a stack of paperwork, because once we accept it, then the clock starts ticking on when we need to have our public hearing.
Sure.
And so there's gonna be a lot of information that needs to be digested yeah.
So in doing that, we found some things that we're gonna backfill into the wind ordinance too, because we found some.
Yep.
We discovered some things that would be helpful in both.
We put a section in there about the building permit requirements, once they get close to getting the special use. And then, they need to make sure they pay our $10,000 per megawatt of nameplate capacity, that comes to the county, just to come to the county. That doesn't cover any costs or application fees or any engineering fees, that's just money come to the county to do the project.
Decommissioning of anything is always a big concern of mine.
But that has nothing to do with
No,
decommissioning money,
I
right,
understand.
yep.
I agree.
Yep. Also, they need to fund the public, the road use agreement.
Right.
That needs to be funded. They also need to submit the financial insurance fees for the decommissioning plan, so they have to do that. They also need to be current with all their costs in getting the conditional use permit. So that has to be wiped
Sure,
out.
makes sense.
We've incorporated the correct terminology that Scott with Clark Dietz talked about as far as a licensed structural engineer needs to be looking at the foundation. So we tried to clean that up like Kathy was saying. We try to look out for the landowners and the neighbors and the public in general. They're not extreme setbacks for solar farms because they're.
More low profile, yeah.
Right, low profile and dangerous, right. We did, like you mentioned earlier, then Jed, we did spend some time on the landscape plan and
Yeah.
what's needed around there, and I think they're becoming more and more accepted in the society. I noticed by 1 in 17 at that facility has got some smaller evergreens planted that look like they're 2/3 of the height of the fence currently, and there's a gap between them, but maybe someday they'll
75
block
feet
it out.
of creek or within 50 of any other aquatic habitat. Then that can be that's variable because a lot of places, the administrator can determine that it wouldn't make any impact on that particular area.
Mhm.
It's up to the administrator. So, yeah.
We've also asked for a semi-annual report from them. We all know that a solar farm, we can't determine when it's actually producing output
Sure.
and therefore in use.
No way to tell.
So we're asking for a semi-annual report, of which we wanted to have a monthly output of the facility reported in kilowatt hours for the prior 6 months.
Mhm.
We want a description of any repairs, replacements, or modifications they've done. We want proof of liability insurance,
Oh, yeah.
that they're covered. And we want them to submit any type of operation and maintenance reports, complaints, noise, lighting, any issues. We want that all listed, and they need to do that, otherwise it's gonna be a default of the ordinance. Yeah. And then when they get done, we need to get a drawing, they call it a record map in plans of the facility, and that should be done by some sort of an engineering firm or that. Doesn't state that, but I think the record plan and maps indicate that it's done by, not dug with a pencil. We talk about the decommissioning plan in great detail, and the financial insurances, which is a certified check, then payable to the county that we deposit in we suggest a financial institution located near Fort County. It's probably gonna be up to Kurt as is usual, but our ordinance says that that's what needs to be done.
If I could, you said certified check, is that the same as, in here it says cashier's check?
You're right, I'm wrong. The old wording is certified, the new one is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. still have a problem with special use and conditional use. I got. You reboot my computer. The decommissioning, also is gonna take in consideration of the roads or the impact on the roads if they need to bring in heavier equipment for some reason. Probably not on solar, but like Kathy said, we want to mirror the solar and the wind and the battery so that we don't have any flip-flops or any
Yeah.
boo-boos. We, like we said earlier, we want to get a hold of the, I got Mavis stuck in my head. What's the name of the organization that the fire departments are involved with? It is Mavis, okay. We want to get Mavis involved to make sure our language satisfies their needs to provide information and equipment so that the local first responders
Yeah.
can do their job. But we think some of these things, you know, that it's gonna be impossible for a volunteer fire department to, you know, we just need to be safe.
Yeah.
So, and our citizens. But we're waiting and we'll need to get them, their input included.
Sure.
We put a section in there about future changes. It may not be as much to do with this as with the wind towers, but if they would increase their efficiency of the solar panels and they came in to redo all their solar panels and put in, I think right now they're up in the upper 20s on efficiency percent wise, but if they came in and come up with a way to do 50% or something, we want to talk about that.
And
Decide.
that will happen.
Probably so, yeah. And we want to make sure we talk about that to see if there's any additional fees that are needed to, you know, to do that. So it's hard to predict that, but we put in a paragraph on it.
And I'll kicker.
Increase like that though too may
I'm sorry,
possibly,
what?
I'm like, an increase in that big of a percentage could also possibly have an impact on the glare that comes off of it.
Yeah, any of that stuff. So the whole project needs to be revisited, but we didn't target a starting point in our ordinance.
Yeah.
But the ordinance will.
You made my mind go there thinking about it.
We've got a pretty substantial or healthy liability insurance. We've talked to some agents about it. And again, it doesn't apply as much to solar as it would to wind towers and their physical problems that they can cause. But $40 million per occurrence. But if I think of in the wind tower business, busload of kids getting in trouble is, you know, that may not be enough.
That's more of a threat than the solar.
Yes, yep. But we're gonna try to keep them the same and. Change of ownership, they have to let us know when there's a change of ownership. Just gotta. Scott, Ricky from Artis suggested we have 2 additional, agreements in, our application process. We didn't put them in the ordinance, but I think we can hopefully include them in our application paperwork. One is to indemnification, that this facility owner needs to be responsible for any suits that arise over anything that's happened concerning the facility, and cover the county, our employees, our agents, our department heads, everybody. And they need to sign off on that statement, so we'll need to get a hold of Jim Devine to come up with this paperwork that is included with the application.
That's good.
Also, then the escrow agreement, he suggested that we have them sign off on what that means on this.
Okay.
Sure check, no, certified check. What that means, that they need to keep, the bills paid and, up until the conditional use permit is taken care of, they need to keep money in there and that. And lastly, we have the LaSalle factors that we've had in our previous ordinances and we've kept them in there just to remind the committee members. provided the applicant does everything in our ordinance, meets all requirements and demands, then we're probably gonna have to, consider accepting the application as far as moving on. That's a 6-minute talk about something that we've had many hours on. So we're still waiting on the state's attorney to get feedback, the county highway department, Mavis, and anybody else that has any thoughts, comments. I know there's a lot we just threw at you this morning, but
Well, I appreciate it. Okay.
if and when we do recommend to the board something, should we prepare a document then that compares this latest, or the proposed ordinance as compared to the changes to the existing ordinance, so that the county board members can see the beginning and the end, or whatever?
So there's, when I read this already, there's already minor changes that were done. Like the little exchange of words, I'm trying to say, that's.
Well, I sent you a sample
Right.
of comparing the,
Right.
just the week of parts.
Correct.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that we're gonna need to prepare one that goes from our final suggested, this is it, to our existing ordinance. So people can see the,
Yeah, they're gonna, I'm definitely gonna circulate, so I can see it.
Okay.
I think at this point, it's time to move on to the state's attorney, to have him oversee it, take a look at it. John, at this point, do you have any questions on this?
I haven't seen the document, so I don't really, can't really comment on
And there's a paragraph here.
it. There's a couple of things that Doug brought up that I don't necessarily agree with or think is necessary.
do we wanna have a special meeting down the road with the idea that these outside parties could be vetted of their opinions and thoughts, so that we can,
I think that in the next move would also be, like I said, have state attorney look this over.
Right.
See what he has to say about it. We're still waiting on Mavis. But I think we're getting close to bring this to the county board.
well, but, I think we need to air out these key players.
Right.
If we, can we have a special meeting then in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking, where we can ask the state's attorney to give us his opinions.
I'll meet with him,
Mavis.
I'll meet with him today, and I can hand this to him
Right.
and have him go over it.
And see if 2 weeks is enough, to see what his
See what it
time
says.
frame will be, because
Okay.
there's a lot here.
And then let everybody else, and we could have hopefully a final meeting, but a meeting to go over people's questions and concerns.
Right.
And we can tweak things prior to the next committee meeting, to the county board.
We've got. 3 days. We have on Tuesday, the county board meeting. What we could do is send this off to them, and we'll go and ask any questions to us. Before we move forward with a special meeting the following week.
Yeah, we can. I just don't know if it's fair to Jim and to Alan and to Jeff to have to battle all 16 county board members over changes that, it's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do.
Let's start with Jim and see what he says. How does that sound today? And then I'll get back to you.
I'm good with you guys.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I think that's, let's jump in with this and see what he says to me, and
wanna
then
do
I
the-
will let you know what he says.
Do we want to do the wind too?
I think what the best thing we do is do one at a time.
Okay.
That way we got everything cleaned up, set and done, and we can do wind, solar,
That's fine.
and battery. I think that'd be the best way to go with it.
No problem.
This is cleaned up.
What do-
That might take turn.
And then if we need to, we'll prepare a document, a file that compares this with the original ordinance in place today.
One
So,
problem we have is farmland has been running like crazy and there's so many.
but that way we won't have to, because if we give them a document, this is the ordinance today, this is this one, and this is the comparison, then they can see, and we give it to them electronically.
Okay.
Right.
Then Amanda doesn't.
And then I also think it's a good idea to just have a bullet point summary in the front of each one of this, just like you just went through all the significant items. I think that helps everyone get
Okay.
grounded in what they're looking at.
Well, after the meeting with Jim today, then if you can let us know, then maybe we can put our heads together to come up with that summary, or there's a better word for it.
Outline.
Yeah,
summary.
outline, yeah, flyover.
Executive
synopsis. Yeah. And then we'll have a deadline when we need to have that available.
Okay.
And in the meantime, if you guys, after you absorb this, John, if you wanna
Yeah.
shoot any comments our way, please do. And there are copies there, right?
Just you say, think of it.
Instead of on those plain.
Those were the planes. I can talk to John afterwards, find out what's easiest for him.
All right, so we'll hold off on discussion and action on the ESF then.
Well, because we need it. Simple.
All right, moving forward, is there any old business? Is there any new business?
Oh, I have just a quick question. November Tax and Zoning Committee meeting, do we have a date for that? Because we will be closed for Election Day.
And it's
I just
going
want
to
to call that
be,
out.
get it in my phone. I already had another person let me know that yesterday too. I was gonna move to November 5th.
That's Election Day.
That's the wrong one then?
Wrong month, is it, or what?
You just mentioned it to me yesterday.
That's right.
I got ARPA on the 4th. I apologize. I had actually mentioned moving to the 6th.
Okay.
I'm okay if we did on the 4th, before ARPA. I don't care. You got management here, don't you? The 4th, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe after our,
No, that'd be long.
later that day or in the afternoon, doesn't matter, you do the same thing on the sixth. There's a
You want a long
judicial
day?
meeting that afternoon.
You want a long day on the
I'll
4th?
be out of town, so.
Okay.
On the 4th,
Do you want to do it after well, I got ARPA between 10 and 11. Just hopefully.
but you're gone the 4th, right?
Right.
So it's.
I'm gone that whole week.
Oh, the whole week.
So,
More than a week.
Did you really vote?
I will, I don't know when it's, I saw we have the voting ability now, so I get it. Hope my kids do.
so it's your call. I can do either one. Let me know what your thoughts are right now.
I'm open.
So the 4th or the 6th, either one work for me. I need to be out here by 5 on Monday.
I totally appreciate that. I hope that we're out by 12:30, to be really honest with you.
But
Does
you
that work
know,
for Steve?
Yeah.
We did.
Monday, Monday the 4th.
If you're feeling really excited, come in at 9, you can watch management, then you can go to ARPA, and then you can go right into our meetings.
And don't forget you gotta do the same thing with the health committee.
Yeah, same thing with the health committee. Yeah.
So at 11.
Health at 11.
Health at 11.
Tax 11:30.
Tax 11:30.
Calling it pizza, are you?
Changes, I'll just change it.
That's what he's buying.
Yeah, what? Say what?
I think you, that side is meant you were paying for pizza.
So November the 4th at 11:30.
The whole time here I was gonna close it out.
Does that work for you? Okay.
I can make it work.
Anything else in new business? Can you get a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Same sign. Time is 11.